Amazing moment when a single dad saved a girl from jumping. What he discovered changed everything. Joshua glanced at the clock as he tightened yet another bolt under the hood of an old Chevy. The garage was buzzing with the laughter of regular customers, the sharp smell of motor oil filling his senses, but his mind drifted elsewhere. He thought of Lily, his bright summer flower, as her vibrant artwork scattered throughout their modest home. Every brushstroke was a reminder of her dream to paint the world in vivid colors and chase the dawn of college life. Yet here he was, just a mechanic, pouring grease onto his hands to provide for her future, stunned by the weight of his own unrealized dreams. As he wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, the demands of fatherhood surged to the forefront. Should he push through another late-night shift, or should he sneak a few hours to help Lily with her art project? The struggle was palpable, an anguish not tightening in his gut. Would purchasing the canvases and paints really mean more than quality time? Just as the thought crossed his mind, he felt a familiar pang of desperation wash over him. And then, the memory of his own shattered aspirations lurked ominously beneath, an echo that reminded him how fleeting dreams could be. That evening, taking a routine walk on the overpass, seeking a sliver of solace, Joshua spotted her, a teenage girl staring into the abyss, her body teetering on the brink. His voice burst forth before he could think, "Hey! Don't do it." Instantly, he felt a thread connect them, a raw vulnerability that shook him to the core. She turned, eyes wide and glistening, revealing layers of despair that struck him like a hammer against his chest. Their conversation unfolded like an intricate tapestry of shared heartaches. Sarah spoke of her artistic visions suffocated by family expectations, dreams curdled by financial limits that, even from this grim standpoint, mirrored his own reality with Lily. It was surreal, realizing the duality of their situations, two artists battling the weight of unfulfilled desires. Sarah's almost success at a prestigious competition haunted him, a specter he could not shake. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah's story spiraled into vivid details, his heart ached, caught between the drive to protect and the fear of failure. Could he truly help her overcome the barriers that promised to swallow her whole? The faces of his own neighbors flickered in his mind, their whispered judgments like shadows casting doubt on his resolve. Did he dare challenge the very fabric of the town that had always put hard work over talent? Deep in his gut, he recognized the converging paths of their stories. Lily, Sarah, both swathed in barriers that felt insurmountable. Soon, Joshua would have to confront an uncomfortable decision. Should he risk his own fragile comfort to raise Sarah's voice, to rally the community around her, or would that only jeopardize everything for both girls? The overwhelming tension pierced through him, teetering on a knife's edge. As he stood on the overpass, the moon whispered answers only he could perceive, answers that felt fraught with peril yet flickered with hope. He had only moments to decide before the clock would inevitably tick forward, and with it, perhaps silence the stories of two artists forever. Would he plunge into the depths of chaos for Sarah and, in doing so, redefine his fatherhood toward Lily? The weight of the impending choice pressed heavily, and Joshua braced himself for what might just become an uncharted journey toward justice. As Joshua stood on the edge of that overpass, the chaos of his thoughts swirled like leaves in a gusty autumn wind. There was no denying the connection he had felt with Sarah, her vulnerability mirrored his own, and he sensed that this was not just an impulsive encounter, but a pivotal moment that could redefine the course of their lives. Inspiration began to spark within him, igniting remnants of his own long-buried aspirations. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill his lungs. "You matter," he shouted to Sarah, his voice tremulous yet firm, "and so do your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He didn't know if his words would reach her, but coming from a place of shared struggle, he hoped they would resonate. As Sarah slowly stepped back from the ledge, her expression transformed, a flicker of doubt replaced by a fragile flicker of determination. Joshua felt something shift within himself, an electric urgency was awakening. He had been merely existing for the last few years, working long hours, numbing the ache of his own aspirations, but now, he realized that to empower Sarah, he would need to first reclaim his own dreams. In the following days, the conversations with Sarah weighed heavily on Joshua's mind. Each time he returned to the garage, he found himself less interested in tightening bolts and more captivated by visions of canvases and paintbrushes. He longed to inspire Lily in the same way he sought to uplift Sarah. The haunting echo of dreams denied resonated with clearer clarity, forcing him to confront his own procrastinated ambitions. One quiet evening, as he flipped through an old sketchbook while Lily worked tirelessly on her art project, a revelation struck him. The sketches he had once poured himself into, eager to paint the world with his own visions, lay forgotten in the dust. Can I revive my art and chase potential along with her? As the thought took hold, the knot in his gut loosened, revealing a sense of possibility that had been buried under heavy burdens, a light beckoning him to embrace change rather than evade it. The realization prompted him to act. He told Lily about his plans to enroll in a local community college art class. Her wide eyes glimmered with disbelief, quickly transforming into a beaming smile that felt electric. You paint? Really, Dad? She exclaimed, clapping her hands in delight. The genuine admiration reflected in her gaze pierced through the veil of self-doubt that had clouded his heart for so long. Encouraged by his daughter's enthusiasm, Joshua made the leap and signed up for an art class. He found himself surrounded by unfamiliar faces, some young, some older, each carrying their own stories of yearning and struggle. As the instructor guided them through the first assignment, Joshua felt a surge of exhilaration, an empowerment unearthing buried potential. The joy of creation blossomed within him as he dipped his brush into paint, transforming white canvases into vibrant expressions of his newfound purpose. Yet amidst the excitement loomed Sarah's ongoing challenge. Balancing his rekindled passion and being there for her and Lily strained his time and energy. Decisions began to pile, and the weight of expectations, his own alongside those of others, started to press down again. How could he advocate for Sarah without sacrificing his burgeoning dreams? Would she see him as a mentor or just another adult driving her deeper into despair? As he grappled with these thoughts, he received a text from Sarah, asking if they could meet. What lay behind her words felt like a vital turning point, perhaps a point of collision between their intersecting paths. A knot of anticipation twisted in his stomach. Would this meeting shatter the fragile hope he had begun to weave, or would it pave the way for broader understanding and collective strength? Uneasy yet resolute, Joshua prepared for their conversation, aware that it could steer not just Sarah's future but also reshape his emerging journey. He felt the moment of truth approaching. Would he rise to the challenge, or would he falter as pressure mounted? The clock was ticking, and both their destinies hung in the balance. The bench was worn but clean, a passive observer of countless conversations in the park where Joshua had agreed to meet Sarah. The gentle rustle of leaves danced with the early evening breeze, mimicking the turbulent thoughts swirling within him. He sat for a moment, mentally preparing himself, weighing the gravity of the words he might share and the vulnerability he wanted to express. The sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows that seemed to symbolize the burdens he carried. Joshua thought about the commitment he made to Sarah, reminding himself that just as her life was entangled with uncertainty, so too was his. He was no longer just a mechanic, he was a mentor, an artist embracing fresh possibilities, and a father striving for balance. When she arrived, a hesitant smile broke through the clouds of gloom that shadowed her face. Her posture conveyed uncertainty, but there was a flicker of resolve in her eyes. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," he replied, his tone warm yet uncertain. "How have you been?" Her response was a simple shrug, but beneath it lay a tumult of emotions. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted, her words tumbling out in a rush. "Every day feels like I'm losing a part of myself. I just don't see any way out." Joshua felt the familiar knot in his stomach tighten. He recognized that despair, it was a sensation he had wrestled with for years. "You're not alone in this," he said gently. "I've been through my share of confusion and feeling lost. But there's still a way forward. We can find it together." These words, while meant to comfort, struck a deeper chord within him. They echoed his own battle for purpose, and he could sense that in supporting Sarah, he was also illuminating his path. What if he could channel his own rediscovered passion for art into guiding her? Could he transform their shared struggles into a source of strength? "Do you still sketch, Sarah?" he questioned. "Art can be a powerful outlet. It helped me when I was lost." Her gaze flickered with interest yet remained cautious. "I used to, but what's the point anymore?" Joshua leaned in, drawing on his own experiences. "Every stroke has value, even if it seems aimless at first. It's about exploring who you are, away from everything else." He paused, feeling the shift in the atmosphere between them. "What if we created something together? Just to express ourselves. You might rediscover a part of you that feels forgotten." The idea ignited something in her eyes. For a moment, the darkness lifted a glimmer of hope. "Together?" she echoed, her heart seeming to thaw. The prospect of collaboration felt tangible, a possibility that could bridge their individual loneliness. "Yes," he replied, his heart pounding. "Art can be healing. I'll show you how I've revived my own passion. We can help each other, just like we've been trying to do all this time." Joshua hadn't realized it then, but he was not merely offering her a lifeline, he was reclaiming his own purpose, a fusion of support and self-exploration. As plans took root, the significance of their conversation began to solidify within him. This path wasn't just about saving Sarah or himself, it was about forging a connection that could empower them both. But as the sun sank lower, his excitement mingled with the weight of the world. Would they truly find solace in creativity together? Or was he, in some reckless way, deluding himself into believing he could save her and perhaps himself through brush and canvas? As they left the park, unresolved doubts tugged at Joshua's mind. The road ahead beckoned him, filled with the promise of connection yet thick with uncertainty. With the vulnerability ahead, could he handle the plunge into this new chapter of his life? Just then, a message from Lily lit up his phone. He glanced down and felt a sense of dread surge through him as the words scrolled into view. "Dad, I want to talk. Something happened at school today." The air shifted, leaving behind the warmth from their hopeful exchange and instead replacing it with a chill that forewarned him of complications yet to come. Joshua's heart raced as he read Lily's message. A cold ripple of anxiety coursed through him, pulling his thoughts back from the possibilities of artistic expression with Sarah to the urgent reality with his daughter. The optimism he had felt just moments ago began to dissolve into a fog of concern. With a deep breath, he tucked his phone away, focusing on the fading light of day. He quickly navigated thoughts of potential reasons behind Lily's message. Each theory seemed worse than the last. Was it a confrontation with a bully? An academic failure? The fear that she might be struggling with her own sense of worthiness gnawed at him. It was a pang that felt all too familiar. He had sacrificed so much to navigate this delicate balance of fatherhood and self-discovery, yet here he was, feeling the ground beneath him shift once again. He couldn't afford to let her down, especially at a time when he felt he might be gaining momentum in his personal life. "Hey, Sarah," he said, turning to her with a forced smile that belied his internal tumult. "I should head home. Family stuff." She nodded, and the momentary spark of connection dimmed as he prepared to step back into the role of a father above all else. On the drive home, the familiar streets blurred past, each turn etched in his memory but somehow different today. He was burdened not only by his responsibilities but by a dawning realization about his own needs. What would it mean to fully embrace being a father while attempting to reshape his own identity? As he pulled into the driveway, the house loomed like a fortress. Joshua took a moment to compose himself before stepping inside, steeling himself against whatever awaited him. The door creaked open, and the warmth of home wrapped around him like an embrace, but it came with a heavy sense of foreboding. "Dad?" Lily's voice broke through the silence, calling him from the kitchen. She seemed smaller, more fragile, as she stood by the table, twisting her fingers anxiously. "Hey, sweetie," he replied softly, setting aside his own turmoil to focus on her. "What is going on?" For a split second, uncertainty flickered across her face before it tightened into a mask of concern. I need to talk about today. His chest tightened further, bracing for the weight of her confession. Thoughts of art and connection faded, replaced by the obligation to protect. He pulled out a chair and settled opposite her, the vastness of the table feeling like an insurmountable distance between them. Something happened during lunch, she started, her voice trembling. And I didn't know how to deal with it. Joshua felt the world narrowing around her words, each syllable an anchor dragging him deeper into the chaos that had infiltrated their lives. She had always been so strong, it pained him to think of her wading through turmoil alone. Lily, you can talk to me about anything, you know that, right? With each word, he sensed the gravity of their relationship shift. He wasn't just her father, he was her confidant, the one who needed to help her navigate her pain, as well as his own developing sense of purpose. Forcing himself to stay focused, he continued, you don't have to face this alone. What happened? Lily hesitated, struggling against a wall of tears. A girl in my class, she tried to jump off the roof. I didn't know what to say or do. The reality of her words hit him with a visceral force. A girl, in pain, standing on the edge. Echoes of his own struggles came rushing back to him. How dangerously close he had come to sliding down similar paths of despair. Joshua leaned forward, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. What you did or didn't do doesn't define you, Lily. It's okay to feel unsure in a moment like that. But we can learn to support each other. We can make a difference. As he finished speaking, he could feel possibility rise within him, possibilities that transcended his role as merely a father or a mentor. It was about embracing vulnerability and sharing strength. Joshua wondered if, amid darkness, they could both discover new forms of resilience. But as he derived strength from Lily's presence, another nagging thought throbbed in the back of his mind. Would just speaking about feeling unsure, about their vulnerabilities, be enough to keep her or himself from teetering on that precarious edge? He needed to figure this out, what these revelations meant for both of them in their fight against despair, as well as the future he was carving out. As he prepared to reaffirm his connection with Lily, the question remained suspended in the air, heavy and unresolved. Could an artist and a girl in crisis pivot their paths when their worlds felt locked in turmoil? Joshua inhaled deeply, the tension in the air thickening as he focused on Lily's tear-streaked face. The gravity of her revelation weighed on him, layering their already complex relationship with something that begged for understanding and growth. He realized that this moment, fragile yet powerful, could serve as a pivotal turning point not just for Lily but for himself as well. Sweetheart, he began, letting the warmth of his voice serve as an anchor, let us talk about what happened next. You don't have to carry that alone either. The words hung in the air, creating a safe space that slowly enveloped them both. She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand but failing to maintain composure. I just froze, Dad. I didn't know how to help her. I felt like I should have done something, said something, but what if I said the wrong thing? Joshua felt the urge to wrap his arms around her, to shield her from the uncertainties of the world. But he held back, instead using this moment to encourage her emotional expression. Not knowing the right words is normal. Sometimes, just being there is enough. His mind buzzed with thoughts. How could he encourage her to embrace uncertainty, learning from each experience rather than allowing it to dictate her self-worth? As he spoke, he felt himself navigating a delicate balance, not just teaching his daughter but also confronting his own fears about inadequacy. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. You're only 14. You're still figuring things out. As he uttered these words, Joshua felt a sense of resonance within himself. He, too, was navigating an uncharted territory of self-discovery and emotional vulnerability. What if I'm not good enough to help? Lily's voice trembled, echoing a sentiment Joshua had often fought against himself. Sweetheart, being good enough isn't always about being perfect, Joshua replied thoughtfully. It's about showing up with an open heart. It's learning to connect with those around you, even if it's messy. A silence fell, a pregnant pause where vulnerability hung between them. Joshua dared to hope that they could emerge from this moment stronger, redefined by the scars life had etched upon them. Lily stared at the table, taking in her father's words. So, if I try to reach out again I shouldn't worry about saying the exact right thing? Exactly, Joshua affirmed, nodding. Your effort matters more than you think. Just remember, we all carry our struggles in different ways. And sometimes, just being there for someone is the most powerful move we can make. As she processed her father's words, Joshua recognized the transformative potential of this conversation. This was a critical juncture not only for Lily as she learned about emotional support but for him as he began to redefine his role beyond the traditional expectations of fatherhood. He felt emboldened by her quiet acceptance, as if they were both taking tentative steps toward a shared understanding. It was no longer just about pulling Lily from darkness, it was about illuminating the path forward together. But as the moment stretched, a gnawing doubt crept in: was he truly equipped to guide her through not only her struggles but notably his own? The looming shadows of his past still haunted him, and he could feel the unease surging as old fears threatened to resurface. Maybe we should think about labeling what feels hard for us, Joshua proposed, trying to create a method to manage their emotions constructively. If we can name it, perhaps we can work through it together. At this suggestion, a flicker of hope ignited in Lily's eyes. Like a list? Exactly, he confirmed, excitement simmering beneath the surface. A fear list. Let us identify which fears weigh us down and confront them. Each step forward can be part of our growth. As they began discussing what to include in this list, a rush of energy filled the room, like a quiet undercurrent of determination pulling them closer. Each word exchanged carried the weight of promise, the inkling of rebirth, and invitation to dive deeper into the realm of vulnerability. Yet, as this new bond formed, Joshua couldn't shake off the anxiety that trailed in the shadows. What if this approach failed? What if they stumbled and fell? With every ounce of resolve, he leaned into the moment, building the foundation for transformation. Together, they could redefine not just their roles but their destinies. Unbeknownst to them both, the journey was far from simple, the complexities of life intertwined with the bonds they built. The next challenge lurked just beyond the horizon, waiting to test their resolve and the very essence of their newfound strength. As Lily looked toward her father with a hint of determination, Joshua realized, the fragile line drawn between support and personal recovery would soon be tested in unforeseen ways. And this time, he vowed to face the darkness with her not just as her father but as a partner in navigating the chaotic intricacies of their lives. In that charged moment, he felt precariously balanced on the edge again, as new questions bubbled to the surface. What would arise when they faced those fears together? Would his own vulnerabilities hinder their progress, or could it transform into a tool for resilience? Joshua sat across from Lily, the fear list before them a tangible artifact of their shared decision to confront the murky depths of their emotions. He hoped that by naming their fears, they would strip them of their power, but uncertainty gnawed at him. Did he truly possess the emotional fortitude to guide her through this maze they were about to navigate? He glanced down at the blank page, feeling an unexpected weight. This was no ordinary list, it was a foothold, an undertaking that required honesty and courage from both of them. Let us start with something small, he suggested, his voice steadier than his insides. What's one thing that makes you anxious? Lily hesitated, her brow furrowing. Then, with a deep breath, she said, what if I never learned to reach out the right way? What if I hurt more people by trying? The vulnerability in her voice struck Joshua like a dart. That's an important one, he replied, jotting it down. But let us break it down. Why do you think you would hurt someone? Because I might say something stupid, she confessed, biting her lip. Joshua marveled at her self-awareness. You see? That fear isn't just about what you might say, it also reflects how much you care. It shows a connection, a desire to comfort. Maybe it's a fear of saying something unhelpful, but it's also a longing to be there. Her eyes illuminated a glimmer of realization. I guess so. I just feel so scared of getting it wrong. He nodded thoughtfully, the discussion igniting a fire within him. All growth comes from mistakes, Lily. What if we embraced that? What if we treated those fears as stepping stones instead of barriers? She tilted her head, contemplating the new angle. Like if I mess up, I can learn from it instead of just feeling bad? Exactly, he affirmed. This journey isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. As he spoke, his own words hit a chord within him. Joshua could feel a shift in their dialogue. No longer was this just about Lily's emotional journey, it was unfolding truthfully into the territory he had long feared to tread, his own vulnerabilities. "What's one of your fears, Dad?" she asked, her expression sincere. He gulped, the words swirling in his mind. Should he burden her with his concerns? Yet, the authenticity they were fostering required reciprocity. "Sometimes, I worry I'm not enough as a parent, as a person. I fear that I'll let you down." Her brows knitted together. "But you're trying. You're doing your best, right?" "Trying isn't always the same as succeeding," he countered lightly, but the tremor in his voice revealed deeper layers. "I still question if I'm equipped to guide you through this." Lily reached across the table, her fingers brushing his hand gently. The touch was electric, full of understanding. "You're not alone, though. We're in this together, right?" Her words struck him, dispelling some of his self-doubt. In the act of vulnerability, both of them stood at the edge of a new understanding. Perhaps, sharing his worries would not weaken their bond but strengthen it, opening the door to deeper conversations. "Together," he echoed, more firmly now. He felt the atmosphere shift, sparks igniting the potential for growth between them. "Let us continue building this list. It can serve as a guide rather than a burden." As they compiled their fears into tangible phrases, he began to see patterns, moments they could unravel, not just to cope but to celebrate the beauty of confronting challenges. The energy in the room transformed. It was no longer just an exercise in naming fears but a collaborative journey toward resilience. However, as he watched his daughter breathe life into this new framework, Joshua felt the pulse of an unknown reality. What if this act of courage of embracing their fears would unearth something much more intimidating waiting at the crossroads of their evolution? As they reached for the final item to list, a sudden chill swept across the room. The alarm on his phone buzzed, breaking the fragile crescendo of their moment. An unexpected call from the school flashed across the screen. And in a single heartbeat, Joshua realized, the real test wasn't fear but the decisions that followed when faced with urgency. "What now?" Lily asked, her brows furrowing again, concern lacing her tone. A knot formed in Joshua's stomach as the weight of uncertainty settled over him once more. They had ventured into their fears together, but were they prepared for the reality outside their protective haven? Was this the moment where their newfound strength would either shine brilliantly or fracture under the pressure? The clock was ticking, and the answer loomed just beyond the horizon. Joshua stared at the buzzing phone, a myriad of thoughts racing through his mind. The school was calling a frequency of worry tinged with urgency. What did they want? Was Lily's situation somehow connected to this ominous call? He glanced at his daughter, eyes wide with an underlying apprehension that mirrored his own. It was as if time folded around them, pressing down with an impending weight. "Are you going to answer it?" Lily's voice was barely above a whisper, a subtle echo of the fear they had just begun to unpack. The earnestness in her eyes ignited something in him. He realized that this was an opportunity, another chance for connection and bravery. "Let us find out together," he replied, choosing his words carefully to ensure he reflected confidence despite the trepidation climbing up his spine. He reached for the phone, the cool surface contrasting the warmth of his nervous palm. Breathing slowly, he accepted the call. "Hello? This is Joshua." The official voice on the other end felt distant yet unyielding. They were discussing Lily, about a situation where a colleague had expressed concern about her well-being. His heart sank. This conversation was not about academic performance or grades, but instead ventured into something potentially much deeper. Lily's hand gripped his tighter, the silent support palpable. "We're working on some things together," he assured as he listened, now deeply aware of how his choices mattered, not just for him but for her. After hanging up, reality crashed around him. "You're feeling lost, my dear, but I need to ask you, how do you see yourself right now?" Lily's head tilted, confusion clashing with determination. "I don't know, Dad. I feel like maybe I'm a puzzle missing pieces. Joshua fought the urge to say that it was okay to feel that way. Instead, he wanted to delve deeper. That image, how does it make you feel? A little broken, I guess. She paused, searching his face for a clue. But maybe I could find those pieces? Joshua felt a flicker of hope at the realization that they were both piecing together their own narratives through fear, uncertainty, and now, this moment of crisis. Exactly. You can choose to find the pieces and create something new. A part of him realized that today's exercise of facing fears was a joint venture. It didn't just help Lily but illuminated his own areas of growth. Struggles and shortcomings no longer felt isolating. Instead, they could be collective, a shared journey toward healing. As he watched Lily, the way that her expression shifted from confusion to potential, he noticed a newfound tenacity glimmering in her gaze. She was ready, and perhaps even eager, to confront the trials ahead of them. It became clear that his fears could also morph into things that fueled progress rather than hindered it. Let us turn this anxiety into action, he said, his voice resolute. Instead of waiting for answers, can we prepare for whatever may come next? What do you mean? She asked, though the hint of excitement lit her eyes. Let us talk about what we can control, Joshua suggested. How about we take a step toward addressing what concerns you at school? Would that help? We can brainstorm ways to reach out. Lily nodded slowly, enthusiasm intertwining with apprehension. Like come up with a plan? Yes. He encouraged. Like a roadmap or a strategy. It's not about pretending you're perfect or never feeling afraid. It's about facing the unknown together. As they sat back down with their list of fears, a pivotal moment rang clear for both. Naming challenges didn't mean they shied away from feelings, it meant they acknowledged the full spectrum of what lay ahead. And maybe this list can guide us towards actionable steps, he added, his heart swelling with determination. Suddenly, a sense of clarity enveloped Joshua. The distorted visions swirling around fears, insecurities, and expectations started crystallizing. They were no longer mere obstacles. Instead, they transformed into a fabric woven with resilience, determination, and capable action. As they began mapping out actionable steps, a startling thought jolted Joseph. Were they prepared for the deeper conversations that would inevitably arise? What if confronting these anxieties led them to uncover whispers of long-hidden truths, catalyzing growth in ways he had not foreseen? Just as they started to pen down their first step, a knock on the door disrupted their progression. The weight of the moment settled heavily between them as Joshua glanced toward Lily, both of them frozen, uncertain if the world outside their newly fortified space would prove equally nurturing or violent. Who is it? Prior anxiety twisted into fresh apprehension. We'll find out, Joshua murmured, steeling himself for what lay just beyond the threshold. Joshua hesitated for a moment, heart pounding against his ribcage. The knock repeated, louder this time, punctuating the silence like a loud alarm. He exchanged a glance with Lily, her eyes spoke volumes of curiosity and dread. Should they approach this interruption as a barrier or an ally? Stay close, he whispered, moving toward the door. With each step, his mind raced through possibilities of who might be standing there and what news they could bring. Would it be a teacher, a counselor, or perhaps even someone from the community? Each option danced in his thoughts, weaving into the fabric of the fears they had just begun to confront. He opened the door, revealing a familiar face, Mr. Thompson, the school counselor. Relief flooded through him, but it was tinged with unease. Mr. Thompson, Joshua greeted, his voice steadying as he motioned for him to enter. What brings you here? Joshua, we need to talk about Lily, Thompson replied, his tone earnest, yet compassionate. I felt it was vital to discuss the conversation we had, in person. Joshua's instincts flared up again. The casual way Mr. Thompson looked at his daughter set off alarm bells. The transition from a phone call to a face-to-face meeting felt significant, perhaps even perilous. Okay, Joshua replied carefully, gesturing for them to sit at the small dining table. Tell me everything. The counselor glanced at Lily, who had retreated a touch behind her father's shoulder, uncertain yet intrigued. "Lily, I hope you don't mind. I just want to understand the support you might need." Joshua felt a surge of protectiveness. "She's handling her situation as best as she can," he asserted, a hint of defensiveness edging his tone. "We've started to talk about some strategies." "Which is great," Thompson acknowledged, his eyes on Lily, who cracked a small, tentative smile in response. "But it's important to gauge how she's feeling at the moment. Sometimes, speaking openly can unveil deeper concerns." Joshua took a deep breath, acutely aware of the implications of the conversation. He had hoped to manage this moment with gradual strides, but now it felt like they were threading a tightrope above a whirlwind of emotions. Looking at Lily, a new realization dawned on him. This wasn't just a conversation about a singular problem, it was a window into how she viewed herself and her life. "Lily, what do you think?" he ventured, placing gentle emphasis on her ability to share. "What do you need right now?" Her brow furrowed slightly, and she shifted her gaze, grappling with the vulnerability of being cornered by adults. I think I need to understand what's happening. Like, why I feel so uncertain." Mr. Thompson nodded, seeming to absorb her words like a sponge. "That's a vital admission, and it's the first step toward growth," he replied. "It's okay not to have all the pieces yet." Joshua felt a swell of pride in Lily. She was discovering her voice, despite the tumult around them, and it ignited a flame within him. He realized that this was a moment of connection, not just for Lily but also an invitation for him to embrace the unknown along with her. "Let's make a pact," he proposed suddenly. "We'll tackle this uncertainty together. No filters, no holding back. Just the raw truth between us." Lily's eyes sparkled with a mix of horror and excitement, a testament to her courage. "Okay. I'm in." The conversation flowed, bathed in a newfound honesty. Joshua found himself sharing moments from his own childhood, the pressures he faced, the fear of failure, the darkness he navigated, all shared with Lily and Mr. Thompson as they explored their intertwined struggles. Hours slipped by, the initial appointments giving way to revelations long buried. Joshua noticed the shifting dynamics among them, recognizing that while answering hard questions could invoke discomfort, those very questions could lead to freedom. They spoke of strategies and practical steps, establishing what felt like a foundation for healing. But even as connections were formed, lingering doubts hovered in Joshua's mind. Had they truly uncovered everything, or was this just an appetizer to larger issues? At that moment, the phone buzzed again, cutting through their discourse with its insistent vibrancy. An unyielding sense of dread coiled in his stomach as he reached for it, the screen lighting up with an unknown number. Who could it be? Lily muttered, her voice quivering. "I don't know, but let's find out," Joshua replied, the urgency of the call echoing his own trepidation as he pressed accept. As he answered, he couldn't shake the feeling that this would be another turning point, the kind that could fortify or shatter everything they had just begun to reclaim. Joshua pressed the phone against his ear, the ringing fading as he took a deep breath. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, sharp and intrusive, like a shard breaking through the fragile bubble they had built in their living room. "Mr. Smith? This is Detective Ramirez. We need to speak with you regarding your daughter's school incident." Panic surged through him. The word incident sent a shiver down his spine, the churning unease mixed with a fierce need to protect Lily. He felt as though he was standing on the precipice of a cliff, the wind of uncertainty swirling around him, pushing against his resolve. "Is she okay?" The words escaped his lips before he could process their gravity. He turned to Lily, whose face had gone pale. Just moments ago, they had been discussing strategies for confronting her fears. Now, their protective cocoon felt torn apart. "Please don't panic, but we're gathering information. Can you come down to the station? We need your help to clarify some things," Ramirez continued, the calmness of her voice doing little to quell the tempest rising within him. "Absolutely. We'll be there," Joshua replied, his voice now steadier, channeling something deep inside him that pushed past the fear. He glanced at Lily, and in that moment of eye contact, he saw her fear morph into determination as she nodded, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As they gathered their things, Joshua seized the opportunity to reflect on this sudden chaos. He realized that the call, though alarming, could also serve as another gateway to opening lines of communication with Lily. It was out of their hands now, but he could stand by her side. The sense of camaraderie they had cultivated in their earlier discussion could become the foundation they both needed during this storm. "Lily," he said, crouching to meet her gaze, "what happened at school? You don't have to face this alone. We can figure this out together." Lily bit her lip, her eyes darting to the ground, and it took everything in him not to fill that silence with his own anxious reassurances. Instead, he waited. This was a critical moment, an opportunity for her to reclaim her narrative. I think someone might be spreading rumors about me." Her voice trembled, but there was strength in her honesty. "And it's like my friends, they're not really friends anymore." Joshua's heart ached, not just for her pain but for the missed opportunities in their previous conversations. He had thought they were making headway, yet here lay a festering wound. "I'm so sorry, honey. But this is the time to be brave. We will deal with this together, I promise." As they stepped outside, the air hung heavier than before, as if the universe was holding its breath alongside them. Each step toward the police station felt like venturing deeper into uncertain waters. Would they find answers, or would they unearth more questions? Joshua's mind raced with strategizing. He could prepare her for the confrontation, give her tools to assert herself against this emotional tide. But first, they needed to restore her belief in herself. "Remember the pact?" he reminded her, seeking to reignite their earlier momentum. "We are committed to being honest with each other. No matter how uncomfortable it feels." She offered a small nod, determination creeping back into her features. He could sense that her courage was returning, slowly but surely, buoyed by their connection. As they neared the police station, a flicker of resolve ignited in Joshua's chest. This new phase was a crossroads not just for Lily, but for him as well. They would confront the shadows lurking around her school together. Specifically, it felt like a chance for him to redefine his role as a father, to not just provide support but empower her. But as they crossed the threshold, the weight of uncertainty settled more heavily upon them. What truths awaited them within those walls might very well change everything. "Let us go in," Joshua declared, his voice steadying once more. "And no matter what they say, we've got this." Yet just as they stepped into the stark fluorescent light of the lobby, Joshua's phone buzzed anew in his pocket. A message from an unknown number flashed across the screen, its contents stirring a fresh well of anxiety. "Joshua!" Lily exclaimed, her voice trailing off into apprehension. He paused, dread clawing at his throat. What now? He thought, anxiety wrestling with determination. The world around them shifted, and as he squinted at the new message, he couldn't help but wonder just how deep their confrontation would go this time. His resolve steeled, but a nagging sense of dread lingered, was focusing on Lily's struggles drawing him away from his own inevitable confrontation? The moment of truth loomed ever closer, and he braced for the role he would have to play. Joshua's heart raced as he opened the message. The words were blunt and heavy. "We know what you've been up to. It's time to stop pretending that everything's fine." Anxiety surged through him, intertwining with the determination that had driven him to confront their collective challenges. Before he could process the implications, Lily's eyes locked onto his, searching for reassurance. "Dad? What's wrong?" His mind whirled. The weight of the moment pressed against him. It was a critical crossroads. Here they were, stepping into the harsh reality of the police station, armed only with their newfound pact to face the truth. But now it felt like they were teetering on the edge of chaos yet again. "Just a text." "Nothing we can't handle," he replied, mustering a calm he didn't entirely feel. "Let us keep moving forward." As they approached the reception desk, Joshua could sense the palpable tension between them. How could they channel the strength from their previous conversations into this unforeseen challenge? He turned to Lily, who stood beside him, the remnants of her earlier determination shining through her anxiety. "Remember our pact? Every uncomfortable moment is a step toward growth. Let us use that to face whatever is coming our way." She nodded, taking a deep breath, but he could sense her apprehension lingering. As they provided their details to the receptionist, Joshua felt a surge of pride that they were confronting the monster of uncertainty together. When Detective Ramirez emerged from an adjacent room, Joshua's breath caught. She gestured for them to follow her. The transition from the bustling precinct to the sterile interview room felt like stepping into uncharted, fragile territory. As they settled into the cold chairs, Joshua's resolve wavered for a moment as the weight of responsibility engulfed him. "Lily, whatever happens, we will keep navigating this together," he reassured her, squeezing her hand gently. The detective began speaking about the incident at school, asking pointed questions about what Lily had experienced and how she had responded. Joshua could see the tension creep back across Lily's face, the uncertainty of how to articulate her feelings. She fidgeted in her seat, and fear gripped his heart like a vice. "Lily, you've got this. Just be honest," he encouraged softly. Then it hit him. This was not just about Lily's confrontation, it was also about him rediscovering his identity as a father. He fought against the instinctual urge to shield her from emotional scrutiny. They were both walking this path of healing together, and part of that journey meant facing difficult truths openly. As the conversation unfolded, he began to notice a shift. With every question posed by Detective Ramirez, Lily found her voice, stumbling at times but eventually articulating her feelings with greater clarity. Each word she spoke lit a spark within Joshua, a realization dawning upon him that his own fears of inadequacy were echoed in her vulnerability. As he witnessed her unfold her narrative, he realized that by supporting her, he, too, was reclaiming his purpose. After what felt like an eternity, Ramirez leaned back, a hint of approval playing across her features. "You both have done remarkably well under these circumstances. This process helps us all find a way forward. Trust me, strength lies in communicating openly." Joshua glanced at Lily, gratitude swelling within him. Here, before this empathetic detective, he had watched their vulnerabilities create a tangible bond woven through shared struggles, their fears slowly minimized. This moment solidified their commitment, not just as father and daughter, but as partners navigating life's constant upheavals. When the interview concluded, they emerged from the suffocating space of the police station, the warm air outside feeling like a rebirth. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, an echo of the blossoming hope he now felt swelling inside. "We did it," Joshua said, turning to Lily, whose previous uncertainty had transformed into a newfound resolve. Her shoulders stood straighter, her expression held a glimmer of empowerment he hadn't seen before. "I really did share my truth." "Yes, you did. And you stood strong. I am proud of you." He could feel the weight of his own transformation taking root, breathing life as hope twisted into determination. He wasn't the man grieving lost prospects anymore. Now, he was an active participant in both his life and Lily's, nurturing their individual paths while creating vibrant connections that empowered them. With each step back toward their car, Joshua recognized that they had traversed a substantial distance together. He caught himself feeling confident, not just as a father but as a human being carving out his identity amidst chaos. This shift wasn't merely about confrontation, it had become a mission, a promise to pursue freedom through authenticity, not just for himself but for Lily, too. As they arrived home, the horizon bright with the promise of new possibilities, Joshua felt invigorated by the weight of change, not fear, but growth, resonating deeply. They were ready to embrace the unknowns they still had to face, finally understanding that vulnerability was not a weakness but a strength they would wield together. In that moment, he felt he could finally celebrate his accomplishments not just as a father or an artist but as a transformed individual. And, standing before the vibrant canvas of their lives, he knew they had only just begun to paint their future with new colors of hope and resilience. This journey of discovery would continue, and he was ready to embrace every stroke of it side by side with Lily. Now, as you've witnessed Joshua's and Lily's profound journey together, you need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss more exclusive emotional stories that can inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and boost the reach of these transformative tales. Comment your reactions and theories about their powerful ending below. Let us discuss how they found their strength together. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this touching conclusion and find the courage to embrace their own journeys. Don't wait even one more second to support this channel. Real fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of empowering each other through these actions.